I'm Leo Warder for Kit Guru, and I'm looking at the Aerocool DS230 case. DS stands for dead silence. We've seen a few dead silence models in the past, and they are indeed typically very quiet indeed. So in this instance, the unusual thing compared to cases I've seen recently is no side window. It's all plain panels. I've removed the top cover, which is this fella here, magnetically retained, really strong magnets, which has some noise deadening material because I've installed a top fan, so that ventilation is now open. It's the same material in the side panels, as you'll see shortly. So as things stand, it's a black case, it's all closed up and looks relatively dull, except it has a nice party trick, which is this lighting in the plinth and also on the front here. You see there, lighting strip top, lighting strip bottom. The three sort of sets of lighting in the plinth and these two here, they're all separated, so there's a load of wiring around the back. We'll come to that shortly. So I can toggle through with these two buttons here. White, double flash means PWM mode, red, green, purplish, orange, lilac, turquoise, and back to white. The PWM mode, which is the double flash denotes, is interesting because in PWM mode, it's telling what the fans are doing. So green is 0 to 20% speed, blue is 20 to 40% speed, white 40 to 60, orange 60 to 80, red 80 to 100%. So you're going green through red through the spectrum, cool through hot essentially, because obviously fan speed should be connected to temperature in any sane world that we populate. So that is useful. So it's not just a lighting system, it also does have a function. And then there's also this button here, so we've got steady lights, that should be breathing, there you go, breathing, that's off and back to on. Let's just leave it on white for the time being. So it's a closed up case, it's got some lights and it's reasonably quiet. I can actually hear the water pump I've got installed, but that's something I put in, so that's on me. You can put quite a lot of cooling in this case. You can put a 240 280mm radiator in the roof, or a 280 360 at the front, obviously, and any increment thereof. So that's quite a lot. Let's take a look inside. So it's 2 thumb screws to remove the front panel, side panel rather. And it's a heavy old thing because of the noise deadening material. And put that to one side and take off the back panel while we're at it. Now these two panels, I've tried them, they are interchangeable, which is a nice touch. A number of times I try and find myself putting the wrong panel on the wrong, or trying to put the wrong panel on the wrong side of a case. It gets a little bit aggravating. Now, I have slightly gone to town with the cooling in this case. We've got, the motherboard is a Gigabyte X99 UD4 motherboard. Processor is a Core i7 5820K. It's got some Corsair LPX DDR4 memory. Graphics card is a GTX 980 from EVGA with an EK water block. And then at the rear of the case, I've got an EK DDC pump reservoir. I took out the stock 120 fan. It's the only fan that is supplied by Aerocool. That normally lives at the rear because I wanted to put the pump res there. And we're running Mayhem's white pastel coolant, which I think looks pretty good in this. You've got a black-white kind of thing going on, very monochrome. Radiator at the front is an Aerocool 45mm thickness, 240mm in dimensions, and it's Aerocool fans. That came from an Aerocool kit I reviewed a little while back. I initially put the 240 rad in the roof of the case and it worked perfectly well there. The holes in the roof are offset, so you can actually pull the rad forward. If you want the radiator sort of to the rear, it needs to be thin, so you're talking all in one territory. That relatively chunky radiator, there are thicker radiators in the market, that's mid thickness. It has to come to the front, otherwise it's just not going to clear the motherboard. I also toyed with the idea of putting a 360 thin radiator at the front. That worked perfectly well. It just came out easy to use a 240, which provides plenty of cooling for a system like this. And then the pump reservoir went to the rear and the rest of it all came together. And then down the bottom we've got an Aerocool T-piece and a drain valve to make life easy for changing the coolant. So overall, fine and dandy. And then if we go to the rear of the system, in here we've got a Seasonic Prime Titanium power supply, which is obviously completely hidden away because of the fixed power supply cover, which is it works, it's there. It's not the finest piece of tinware I've ever seen. I'd much prefer a power supply cover that was removable, but what can you do? So there you are, a perfectly decent case. It's come together for quite nicely. In terms of the features that actually come with the case, we've got two sort of significant things, both connected. We've got down here the lighting hub, and up here a PWM hub. Now, this cabling here is typical of the lighting cable that actually goes to the plinth. And then you've got similar cabling going up here that goes to the lower strip and the upper strip. And then you've got another connection that goes from the lighting hub to the PWM hub. Otherwise, how could you have that PWM mode? Indeed. So two little hubs, each mounted on some hook and loop Velcro type material, which makes a lot of sense. They weigh nothing, and that way there's no sort of, well, I suppose it helps them sort of survive vibration and such like. A really easy way of mounting them. You will notice here we have an NZXT Grid Plus V2 unit. That's because when I set the system up, the fan speeds are a bit high for my taste. Not super high, just a bit noisier than I wanted. And I'm not sure whether that's a function of the BIOS on the Gigabyte motherboard or the PWM hub that comes with the case, or the two working together. PWM control can be very iffy. I have to say Gigabyte is on the best in the market, but nonetheless I wasn't entirely happy. So I whacked in the Grid Plus controller, hooked the fans up to that, and that meant I could use the CAM software that comes from NZXT to drop the fan speeds, and that worked very nicely for me rather than using the BIOS. So that's the reason why that is there. In here we have an NZXT Hue Plus lighting controller, because the white lights here and here are connected to that. They are not part of the case as such. Just shows off the interior more nicely. Now that Hue Plus controller goes in one of these two drive bays here, which are sort of standard 2.5. This cabling does get a bit in the way, but it is doable. It's a 2.5, 3.5 caddy in the usual way. So there's two of those, and I've mounted the Hue Plus in one of them. Had I really wanted to put two storage drives in, I could have put the Hue Plus elsewhere, but that just made life easy for me. And obviously I've tucked an SSD on the back as well. There are two SSD mounts inside as well, should you wish to put an SSD there instead. So there's actually plenty of storage space. It's just I've gone for a single SSD to make life easy. I could have easily put another drive in, and another drive wouldn't have been too difficult had I moved the lighting controller. And of course you don't necessarily need to have a lighting controller. So overall, no complaints. I did have to do a fair amount of work tidying up the wiring. I mean, the cabling, I've used, I don't know, 20 odd cable ties on this. There are plenty of tie down points throughout. There are one or two places it would be nice to have one or two more, but can't complain. This area up here was missing, but it's fine. One thing that at first surprised me is there are plenty of cable management holes, but there are no grommets in those holes. But of course, as the thing has got panels both sides, no windows, you don't really need grommets. It's just like what you expect to see. The holes of the steel are rolled and haven't got sharp edges, so no complaints with the quality. It's just I'm used to seeing windows in this day and age, and I'm used to seeing cable management grommets. No and no. But LEDs, yes. So 1 out of 2 ain't bad. Overall, I'm happy with the build. I think it looks good. I'm not suggesting you're going to build this type of PC into this case, but it works perfectly well. Temperatures with this custom loop work very nicely. So the CPU idled at 32 went to 49 under extreme load. GPU idled at 33 went to 47 under extreme load. If you take off the side panel, the temperatures change by about 6 degrees, which shows that noise deadening, and the fact it's all closed up does make a difference. But it goes from cool to slightly less cool. We're not talking toasty, not by a massive margin. Having said that, if you're going all in one or air cooler, different story perhaps. But with this custom loop, really happy, absolutely no problems whatsoever. Pricing in the UK is a few pence under £80, which puts it in cheap enthusiast territory, which seems entirely reasonable to me. Overall, I would say DS230 is a success. Very happy with it. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. Leave us a comment. Come and talk to us on Facebook. If you want more videos from Kit Guru, click to subscribe. I'm Leo Walder for Kit Guru. This is the Aerocool DS230.